Welcome to the Better Birth podcast. I am, I say this every episode actually. I'm so excited. But genuinely, every episode I am genuinely very, very excited. But this I'm even more excited than normal because it's a birth story episode. I can't even get my words out. And I love sharing birth stories. And today's episode is with the very, very wonderful and special Becc, who is a doula and birth worker and birth keeper, but she's also one of my previous clients who did my group course. So I am super, super excited to share her birth story. Welcome, Bex.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm also so excited.
So
Thank you
excited.
so much, for having me.
I think one of the reasons that I'm so excited to share your story is because um it's different, I think, from a lot of other people's birth stories. And I think it's really important that we share different stories and different journeys and different paths to birth. And I tell all of my clients when I'm talking about birth rights and birth options, I always mention your birth plans because they are not the kind of choices that a lot of people would make. So do you want to talk a little bit first about what you did during pregnancy, what choices you made, and then you can talk a little bit about the birth?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my pregnancy, it's my first pregnancy. I've been a birth keeper for a few years. So going into pregnancy, I felt well informed and very comfortable to choose the option of wild pregnancy. And so, if no one knows what wild pregnancy is, it's basically having your pregnancy and birth completely outside of the system, which meant that I didn't contact anyone to let anyone know I was pregnant. So I didn't have any doctor's appointments. I didn't see a midwife. I didn't have any scans. I didn't have any tests. I didn't have any kind of prenatal, antenatal, or I did have support, but I didn't have your kind of standardized NHS care that we will get here. I chose to opt out and I went down a more alternative route and holistic route, which I thought was going to be supportive for me. So walks and sunshine and eating as much as I could that was healthy. But my morning sickness at the beginning of my pregnancy was super full on. So I always joke and say that my son Nalo is made of salt and vinegar crisps, pink grapefruits, and like apple tire sex. And I don't even drink fizzy drinks. That was just like that is what he's made up of. Bless him. So I chose the wild pregnancy with a plan to free birth, so to birth without any medical professionals there, and actually no one else there apart from my partner in the space. Which is what we did, which was absolutely beautiful. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. But yeah, acknowledging that definitely is different than what a lot of people choose. And also I don't think a lot of people even know that it's even an option. Like before we even thought about it, we've contacted a healthcare professional to let them know that we're pregnant. And we just kind of are on that roller coaster before we even know what that roller coaster is or what that looks like. So having worked in the birth world, I knew that that was not the path that I wanted to go down. And yeah, and
I
it was
imagine it's
just
quite freeing though, right? Like not not having not going to the scans, not having those appointments, which I think some people really look forward to, but a lot of people find them quite anxiety inducing. And the conversations that are had during those appointments, I think not having those interactions, not having that looming pressure of the induction discussion because you're not engaging with the NHS, I imagine is quite freeing.
oh my gosh, it felt I can't imagine doing a pregnancy any other way. And of course, if I felt like I needed to, I would have absolutely gone in. I would have been the first person to go in, have an appointment, or seek medical assistance or support should I felt I needed it. And don't get me wrong, there were absolutely points that in the first trimester, especially when things were super intense, that I was like, oh, should I just go and get a scan or should I just go and do this? And naturally, there were fears coming up as there is with heading into anything which is the unknown, even if you are knowledgeable in and around birth and have seen however many births before that have all gone beautifully. You know, for me, I felt like I didn't have access to my birth keeper hat in pregnancy at all. I was like, I'm a first time mum. What is a contraction? Which was mental. I never expected to have that experience. But obviously you do have all of the knowledge still. But my partner was a solid anchor for me, who supported me throughout. And I was very lucky to have a partner who was fully on board with what I wanted to do. Like, I think I always knew what I wanted to do before I even got pregnant. And then there wasn't even a discussion when I got pregnant. It was just like, well, yeah, we just have a relaxed time. Because I think for me, as you've just said, I would have found the appointments to be anxiety inducing, because again, as knowledgeable as you can be, if you have someone saying X, Y, and Z could potentially happen to your baby, or you're not doing it right, that information goes somewhere. It sits somewhere. It penetrates your energy, your energetic field of how you feel about your birth and your body. And I just was like, that's a hard boundary for me. It's not welcome into this space, and I'm not putting myself in that situation for my baby's sake and for my own and for our family. And yeah, I would say that not having scans or anything external, there definitely was this period of time when my morning sickness finished, before I was quite showing, that was just like, am I even pregnant? What's going on? Even though of course I was, but you know, there's a sense of not having external validation of your internal experience. So not to see your baby or hear your baby or have someone be like, yes, you are pregnant, even though you already know. There, it felt very abstract, and that was the word that came up for me throughout my pregnancy, was just abstract. Yeah, which was, yeah, it was very, very interesting. But I absolutely loved having the freedom in my pregnancy to move and journey through the pregnancy as we would have done hundreds of years ago. And you tell people that that was our journey. My nan, for example, what do you mean you haven't had a scan? That's really dangerous. And I was like, well, did you have scans with any of your four? And she was like, well, no, but they weren't on offer then. And I was like, and they're all right, aren't they? It's like, yeah, it's super interesting. But I absolutely loved it, and I wouldn't choose to do it any different.
I think it's so wonderful that you're sharing your experience as well, because I think a lot of people don't realize that it's even an option to do that. And it's not the right option for everybody, definitely not. But it is an option. And I think a lot of people think that you have to engage with the NHS and that you have to go for scans and you have to go for appointments. Or if they say that you have to have extra scans, that you have to go to those appointments as well. And it's all optional. It's this National Health Service. You opt in to engage and use that service if you want to, and if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. So I think it's fab that you're sharing your experience so that people do know that that is an option if that's something that they would prefer to do. I'm super excited to hear about the birth though. So come on, tell me about the birth, because I've been dying. I've been waiting months and months to hear your birth story.
So here we go. No, so I was adamant, like, can I swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
I was fucking adamant that I was going to be 43-weeker, premature rupture of membranes with meconium, and like I was going to be all of the things outside the guidelines. And I was tick box, like a midwife would have absolutely loved it. I was like, I can't believe it's happening. So funny. So I really thought I was going to be, yeah, a 42, 43-weeker for sure. So I was prepared for all the time in the world. Towards the end of our pregnancy, we moved into our new house when I was 35 weeks pregnant. So my nesting period was like, I was well in nesting period before we got in here. So I found that quite difficult. And once we got into the space, I'll just do a little bit of backstory to the space that we're now in. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, all I could see was a pink Himalayan salt lamp, a double bed, and I was in a yurt. Didn't have a yurt, didn't have the salt lamp, didn't have anything. This was like, right, this has literally come to me. So I'm like, right, okay, I'm just gonna surrender to it all and it will come. Anyway, we're trying to look for a place to live and ended up finding a place to live. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I want the yurt space, but I also want an indoor space, but also with a bath, but also I really want a fire. Also, I really want to be by the sea and I really want to be by wild horses. My partner was like, we might have to, like, you know, restrict the or not restrict, but kind of, you know, drop our expectations a little bit. And I was like, no, like that's what's happening, with access to a yurt where I can put my birth pool and blah blah blah. Anyway, it came. I live in this place now. And so we moved in pretty late on. It was like a real game of trust. We moved in at like 35 weeks, had everything ready by about 38 weeks. And by everything ready, I mean, you know, I contacted the head of midwifery, the local head of midwifery, and just said, hey, these are my rights. This is what I'm planning to do. I'm letting you know that I'm here. I'm in your area. I'm 30 whatever weeks pregnant and I'm having a free birth. And she was so cool, was like, cool, we're here if you need us. I was like, amazing. So we'd done that. So the like we had all the food prepped, we had everything ready. We bought a new freezer. We packed it full of all their beautiful postpartum things, and like settled into our nest, dropped in. Everything was ready by like 38 weeks. So at 39 weeks, I was lying in bed, well, I was asleep in bed, and it must have been, I had like a little bit of cramping. So I was like, I'm not going to use the term Braxton Hicks because I don't like that that's founded, quotation marks, by a man. So I started to have sensations, which I believed were like practice or practice labor. So I woke up and was like, oh, I hadn't had any niggles at all. I hadn't had anything. So I was like, oh, okay, this is really exciting. My body's getting ready, you know, another 3 weeks left. Body's getting ready. Went back to sleep and then woke up again and had another one. I was like, oh, my body's really like getting into this. And then I think I had another few more and I looked at my phone and it was like 1:15 in the morning, I think it was, on the 7th of May. And anyway, so I just got back in bed, just chilled, and they kept coming. I was starting to have to breathe through them a little bit and just kind of getting in the zone. I didn't wake Connor up. He was just fast asleep next to me. And then it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. I went to the toilet and my mucus plug had started coming away. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have a baby. I was like, okay, this is it. These two are like pretty solid starters of labours well underway or beginning. And I came back into the room and I was like, I'm getting a mucus plug. Obviously, I'm like taking pictures of it, everything, being like, I have to save every moment. The birth keeper, what colour is it? What texture? I love this. How much of it? So I came back in. I was like, my mucus plug's coming away. And Connor was like, what do you think that means? And I was like, we're gonna have a baby. And it was really exciting. We were like, oh. So yeah, we just had breakfast and just had a really chilled day. Yeah, I was kind of breathing through contractions at this point, but was still very much there, and was just in the bedroom having like little naps and had something to eat and cups of tea. And then it got to like, I think it must have been like 9 or 9:30 in the morning, and things were starting to like ramp up, obviously knowing that things can ramp up and then stop. And I kind of thought, okay, things are probably going to settle down during the day and then start up again tonight. So get as much rest as you can, knowing that I could have been there for 3, 5 days, whatever. And I always think, for me personally, to prepare for the long game is really supportive for me to mentally be like, okay, this is the beginning. I'm going to be in this for like days. So just kind of bunker down. And I just was like to Connor, we need to go to the woods. And he was like, the woods? I was like, yes, we need to go to the woods. So we I was going to say we packed our bags. We packed fuck all. Connor had to come back halfway through our time at the woods to get water. I was like, why am I in labour going for like a really long walk and not even taking water? You know, you're just like, this is just stupid. So yeah, we've got 2 woodlands on the land where we live, but it's like maybe a 20-minute walk to get to the woods where we were going. So got ready in April, obviously in England with our suede coats on and like sheepskin coats and scarves and everything. You know, shit spring that we had, but beautiful. We started, yeah, we walked to the woods and I was stopping for stages and they were coming maybe every kind of sporadically, but I was having a few within 10 minutes. So they were coming quite consistently, but not, I wasn't timing them or doing any of that. We were just kind of flowing with it. And we got into the woods and we call it the Bluebell Woods, or the Fairy Woods, because it's just like coated with bluebells in spring. It's absolutely beautiful and huge oak trees. They've got like a little children's forest school in there and stuff that happens a few days a week, and it's just really beautiful. The energy in there is really beautiful. So we got into this place in the woods and I just kind of was like, no, I want to stop here now, and took my shoes off and just had my feet on the earth and was surging up, leaning up against the beautiful trees. And yeah, it was just beautiful. And then the sun came out and it was, we've got pictures because Connor does video work, so we brought his camera on a tripod and we just kind of took it with us and just put it down, so it's got bits of our labour in the video, which is so nice to look back on. And so we were in the woods and he went back to go and get some water for us, because I was like, pass the water. And he was like, what water? I was like, oh, no. So we went back to get water, came back with a few little snacks. We had some blueberries and like rice cakes and things like that. And I think I was like near enough naked by this point, just in the woods, like, and the surges have really started picking up. And a lot of it feels quite hazy now because that space is where I really dropped into my labour, and we were there for about 4 or 5 hours. And yeah, just feeling really like the earth really held me and really had that grounded essence of my feet were in the soil and my hands on the trees. And yeah, it was beautiful. And we saw a deer when we were there, and
Wow.
so beautiful, because I always say deer feels like really, I feel really connected to deers, like through like a spirit animal that I always feel like is a symbol of my dad. My dad died when I was younger, and I saw it. I was like, oh, my dad's here in my oxytocin, like, oh yeah. So that was just so beautiful, and yeah, it was just magic. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to go back now. So we started walking back, and by this point, I wasn't just stopping to surge. I had to lean up against a tree, and I kind of got myself into a ritual of navigating the surges, which for me were leaning up against a tree. And so we were doing that all the way through, all the way home. And I think, oh yeah, that was it. When Connor had gone back to get the water, he actually drove the car back. So we didn't have to walk back, which I'm so glad he did that, because I got in the car to go home, which is like a minute drive. So anyway, we get back home and I come up to the bedroom, and yeah, I just said to him, I think it's time to go and set the space up now. So must be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So I'd said to the baby, if you have a calendar or you know the dates, these are the dates the year is available. It's not being booked out for Airbnb, or we've got the house. So it's up to you where you want to be born, but these are the dates that are available for the year. So obviously the year it was available. So he went and set the space up, and I just stayed in the room and was getting really into it now. I think I was surging maybe quite often, every 2 to 3 minutes. Still knew that there could be a while off, or things might even teeter off a little bit. But after maybe an hour and a bit, and I was trying to eat, and then I was trying to have little naps on the bed and all of that, went into the year, and the pool was up and the space had been set up, and the fire was lit, and it was just like a womb, and it was like I got into that space, and it was just like it just dropped in, and it was just like things just really started to pick up. And it was so beautiful having just that canvas between us and the earth, and having, been able to hear the birds, being able to hear the children playing quite far away, and looking through the window of the earth, and there just being trees and green. And it just felt really beautiful to know how we just felt so held all around us throughout the pregnancy, throughout the labor and the birth. And so, yeah, things really started to pick up. And yeah, it was really interesting to look back and witness my birth as a birth worker with knowledge of birth, and seeing the different things that I was doing with my body, and how I was moving my body and putting my arms in the air and reaching out, and pointing my toes and doing all of this like pelvic opening that was so instinctual. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like rolling around on moving off the bed to the floor. I think because I moved to a different space, I interrupted my ritual. Whereas when I've been in the bedroom, when things have really ramped up, I was doing the same thing with each surge. And yeah, so when I say ritual, I mean like, the same repetitive thing that supports you throughout surge, for anyone that might not know what I'm referring to. And yeah, so I kind of interrupted my ritual when we moved into the space again. So I think I was exploring different places within the year to try and find that ritual again. And I was just like, I just want to get in the pool. And I was feeling a lot of pressure, and I didn't feel I wasn't having an instinctive urge to push. However, I thought, oh, I'm just going to have a little push and see how it feels. And when I was doing that, I felt really good. So I just started to do that. And then that kind of became, my body stepped in and just started doing that for me. I got in the birth pool, and things all kind of, I just got a bit of a breather when I got in. Everything kind of slowed down. We had the music on, and we had a beautiful altar space set up. And I had my beads there from my mother blessing. I had all the like affirmation cards that many of my clients have used, that have had in their space, that we kind of pass on for everyone to use. And Connor was just there, just sat on the bed, yeah, he was very prepped in hands off, you chill, do nothing. That's the best thing you can do. Yeah, and the surges then just began to pick up again. And yeah, you hear that quote often of that woman travels to the stars to collect her baby. And for me, I heard one of my teachers, Amy Aroha, her saying that her experience of birth was not in fact going to the stars to meet her baby, but going deep into the earth to bring her baby up. And that felt really true. It felt very primal. It felt very embodied. Although I was also externally out of my body, I was also very embodied, because it is a physiological process. Of course, we know that it's very embodied. And I remember having a moment where I still remember it now, standing outside of the birth pool and watching myself in labor. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I could hear different versions of myself. There were 3 very definitive different versions of myself. And when I was in the birth pool, I could hear them simultaneously talking. So it was a very, I'd say, spiritual or psychedelic experience that I was not expecting to have. I didn't have any expectation. I knew that a vast majority of things could happen, but I was like, okay, cool, whatever's for me will come. And I'm have the experience I'm meant to have. And these different parts, it was like, one of them was this birth worker part that was like, oh, that sounded really high pitched. I wonder if the baby's head's asyncletic. And then there was me that was like in labor in the pool. And then there's another part of me that's like, we don't need to be having this discussion right now. Like, it's absolutely fine. Like, why don't we just get back to birthing? And then the part of me who was in the pool was like, yeah, why are we even having this discussion? The birth worker part was like, well, I'm just assessing the situation. And I was like, what is going on? It was mad. But at the time, I didn't think like this is weird. I was just like, I don't need to be thinking about this right now. Come back in. And then like, yeah, a narrator in the corner narrating what was going on. It was, yeah, super interesting. And the stages obviously started getting really intense, and I was absolutely using my voice, activating that vagus nerve. And yeah, that was really supportive for me. And for me, I felt part of my labor was, it's a very somatic experience. It almost felt like it was a journey of moving through all of the somatic experiences that are negative that I have had within my womb, within my yoni, within my body, were almost like being purged. And it was like I had to go through this journey of somatically releasing with my voice, with my womb, with my surges, all of these things that I'd experienced before I could reach for my baby. So that was really interesting, not something I quite thought of before. I remember I've attended a birth where there felt like a lot of ancestral stuff, and we'd spoken, and there had been a lot of ancestral stuff that was almost like she had to move through. I didn't realize how true that would feel for me. So that was really, really powerful. And I felt like I moved through a lot. it felt like a lot. And it was beautiful, and it was hardcore, and it was messy, and it was primal, and it was all of the things that birth always is. And yeah, so the sages had picked up, and I'd had a little moment where I was like, I need to be sick. I wasn't quite sick. And that was it. On the walk back from the woods, I turned around and said to Connor, and I can't remember saying this, I can only remember it, I've only seen it on the video. I'm like, the baby's back to back. And Connor was like, how do you know? And I was like, I don't know, I just know the baby's back to back. And so, to be fair, baby had been moving back to back throughout, because I could feel when I was palpating my belly and I was having to feel where baby was, that yeah, that was a position he was moving to and from. So when I got into the pool and stuff, and yeah, everything has started ramping up. I'm losing my train of thought now because I'm like jumping to and from. But yeah, this really helps me to kind of, because it's still unfolding in my mind, it helps me to kind of integrate even more as well. So, yeah, so I wasn't sick, and I really wanted to feel where I was up to. I was really like, if I feel where I'm up to and I don't feel anything, how am I going to feel?
Mm-hmm.
Things where I wasn't really getting a break between surges now. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to feel great if I can't feel anything. So I kept putting it off, kept putting it off. And then I did have a little feel, and I couldn't feel anything, which I thought was going to happen. And then my brain's like, for fuck's sake. And then I was literally like to Connor, whose idea was this to have a baby? In my head, I was like, who the fuck do I think I am? I should have just had a cesarean. Which, we all know cesarean is not an easy birth choice. I should have just gone to hospital, which of course is not how I feel. So I'm still contemplating where my transition was, and I'm wondering if that was part of my transition, because I had a feel a few moments later, and I could feel the sack. And as soon as I could feel that he was coming, it was like a dropping in, because I was still pushing at this phase. So I've been in the pool for maybe a few hours. And I'd continued pushing since just before I got in the pool, as soon as I was in the year. So I could feel the sack. And then I was like, cool, like the baby's coming. And then I think a few surges later, the sack ruptured. And then straight in was like, oh, I'm going to be able to feel my baby's head. Nothing. I was like, oh my God, where's my baby? It was like, oh God. But it was like, it's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine, because it was all as it was meant to be. And the birth keeper part of me, I was speaking a lot out loud to myself. So I was like, it's okay, Becc, you just do one surge at a time. Your baby's coming, it's all fine. And then I was like, yeah, okay, it's going to be fine. Connor must have been like, fucking hell, what's going on? So, yeah, I was really having a lot of conversation with myself and really guiding myself through that. I guess a doula in myself. And, that morning, or the afternoon before, or the evening before, I'd watched a video, and it's a video popped up on Instagram, and it was a woman who said for her birth, what really supported her was where you feel the sensation or the pain or what we perceive to be pain, go to the center of that pain and give yourself to it. And I remember that's something when I used to do a lot of womb work, we talk a lot about period pains, and it'd be like, go and meet the pain. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly the same. And, I knew that, and it, but hearing it in a different way that landed in your body. And that's what I kept thinking. I was like, just go to the center of it. Don't try and be like, oh God, when's this surge going to end? So I could fit, I kept going like, no, I don't want another one, for like this little moment of time where I was like, no. And then as soon as I heard myself say no, I'd be like, yes, thank you, another one. And like going to the center of it and being like, yes, I am here to meet you. Thank you. You are bringing my baby here. Because, it is coming from you, so it cannot be bigger than you, even though it feels that way. And then I felt his head, and it was just like, cool, I'm having a baby now. And it was just like a really deep dropping in that was even deeper. That was just like the sensation to push obviously got more intense by this point. Because he was back to back, I felt nothing in my bum. I didn't feel anything in my back. Interestingly enough, a lot of people who have back to back babies feel a lot in their back. Didn't feel anything in my bum really. It didn't feel anything in my back, but I did feel it all on my clitoris and my labia. So it was all very front, which was really fucking intense. It was super intense. And I don't want to, there's part of me that feels like I can't share that part of my story because I don't want people to fear that being their experience. And, I think there's so much talk in the birth world about, our body's made for this. These are the things we can do to avoid tearing or avoiding feeling this or avoiding doing that. But not that many people are saying you might feel it, but you can fucking handle it when you can, because you just go in and you meet it because you are capable of doing that. And so I want to say that to anyone that's listening now thinking, fucking hell, I don't want to feel that, because it was very, very, very intense. And it's actually part of my birth that I'm processing. One of the biggest parts that I'm processing, because I think there is some physical trauma there on some level, because it was all on my clitoris, my labia, and that was very, very, very intense and very unexpected. I didn't expect to feel it there either. A lot of people, it's always like, I needed a poo, it was all on my bum. Didn't have any of that. So when this was happening, obviously I was like roaring through the surges and could feel baby coming down. I was just speaking to baby, and when I put my hands and I could feel that he was crowning, I just remember it being like the most incredible thing that I've ever felt. No one outside of me had ever seen him through a picture, through like an ultrasound. No one had ever touched him. No one had ever interfered. No one had ever poked or prodded him. The first interaction he's ever had with a human being was me touching his head, which felt so beautiful. And for me, that felt exactly how it was meant to be. And so as he was coming out, I actually thought that his head had been born. And I remember thinking, right, I need to know for definite if he's back to back, and I'm not going to know because it was really dark. And then we were videoing because of the position I was in. I was kind of on all fours, but pushed up against the back of the pool and using my hands to push against the step. So on the video, you can't, it's a very PG video. You can't see him being born. And so I was like, I need to, not that I was thinking about that during, but I was like, I need to know what position he's in. And I remember thinking his head was born and sweeping my hand around his head and feeling nothing and thinking, fuck, how am I going to keep this baby alive when it's got no face? But obviously it was his head like molding and kind of coning coming out. And I was like, and I remember thinking, it doesn't matter, just get it out. Just get him out. Support him to come out. I remember thinking that and thinking, oh my gosh, and thinking, I don't want to be thinking this right now. I was just talking to him and I was just saying, it's okay, baby, I'm ready now. Like, we're ready, we're waiting for you. It's safe for you to come. And yeah, then his head was born and his arms and shoulders were born, and then everything stopped. And I leant back to retrieve him and realized he was still inside of me, but I could feel his hands touching my ankles. And it was the most bizarre feeling and incredible feeling. And then I let out this like huge roar, and I'm leaning up against the pool and let out this huge roar. And then I just go, okay, the baby's here now, and lean back, and he just floats up. And they open their arms and his eyes were wide open underwater. And it was just the most incredible feeling in the world. And it was just like I know you, like I remember you. And to have that be the first time that I've ever seen him, and to be like, oh fuck, there was a baby in there the whole time. And I had to just lift him up, and I kept him under the water and I just kept his head out. And I could see that he had his eyes open. He didn't kind of clear straight away, and that was fine. It was just really beautiful to meet him in that moment. And my partner really gave us that moment. And then I kind of lifted him up and put him over my arm and was just stroking him and helping him clear. And then he had a little cry, and we turned him over, and it was just like, I'm your mummy. It was so beautiful. It was so, so special. And yeah, we were just in that absolute bliss. And then it was probably about 15 minutes later, I started having surgeries for my placenta. And so we stayed in the pool, and then the blood started coming in, the pool started to fill with this beautiful, beautiful red color. And I had my baby, and it was just like so magic. But I was also like, I'm ready for this to be over now, actually. Like, I just want my placenta to be here so I could get into bed and get comfy. And I think it had been about an hour we'd been in the pool, and I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna try and get out of the pool because I know that can help to birth the placentas, like stepping over the side of the pool. So we got up, and his cord felt very, very short, but actually I think my placenta was just quite high. As my placenta was moving down, the cord was getting longer. But he yeah the so when I stood up to get out of the pool, I was then trying to explain to my partner how to get me up out of the pool, hold the baby, help me over the side of the pool, but also catch the placenta and also make sure that I don't fall. So I was like, okay, this is what we need to do. If you do this, da da da. And it's so interesting how there's just like that. I'm having a baby and I'm so in it, and then it's like the baby's here and you just back, and it's just like, oh, can you pass me that water? Can you pass a towel? Okay, so when I do this, and it's just like, has anything just happened here? It's like so bizarre. And I love every time I go to a birth and I see that kind of that switch. It's just how capable we are as women is just incredible. And so We didn't catch the placenta, but I didn't fall. We didn't drop the baby. Got out of the pool and I birthed the placenta onto the floor, and then got into bed, and I lost a little bit more blood than what potentially would have felt great for my body. And I wasn't worried. If there was a midwife there might have been a little bit of more concern around it. But I felt okay. I felt okay. I was going a little bit dizzy, a little bit short of breath. So I was just like, I think I've lost a little bit more blood than what would be like great in quotations. But I feel okay. I just need food, need water. You need to keep me warm. So I got into bed and had my baby all nestled into my boob, and had peanut butter and banana and honey on toast, and we had the fire still going, the music was still playing, and we just laid in bed and we napped on and off for about 7-8 hours. It was just so beautiful. I just couldn't have wished for anything else. And then I didn't know what I was going to do with the placenta. I knew I was going to bury it. And I had the whole thing, my pregnancy, where I really thought I was going to, before I got pregnant, it was adamant that I wanted to consume the placenta. As soon as I got pregnant, my body was like, no, this placenta has to stay whole. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I really, really want to have placenta smoothies. My body was like, no. Baby was like, no. So I was like, okay. So we cut the cord. So it must have been like 10-ish hours or something later. We cut the cord and used a beautiful crochet cord tie, and then we went back into the house. And yeah, the weather had been so crap in the lead up to his birth. And then it was almost like, it felt like we went into hibernation, went into the womb cave. And when we came out of the next day, I had Nalu like on my chest and wrapped in a dressing gown, and we kept really cozy, and Connor helped us get back into the house. And it was like, I don't know, 30 steps from our front door to the through like our beautiful garden. And it just felt like the whole of the garden had just bloomed overnight. It was just like, oh God, I've never seen a leaf that beautiful before. It was just like, have I had baby or have I been taking mushrooms? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a bit of both. And it was just, it was just so beautiful. And then we just had a blissful few weeks with hardcore breastfeeding. It was hardcore. It was more difficult than the birth for me personally. But we're here 6 months on, still breastfeeding, and everything feels a lot easier. So yeah, it was just absolutely beautiful.
Oh, sounds amazing. Like, my God, I wish it makes my heart hurt a little bit, because it makes me think, God, it makes me think of all the people that didn't have, or don't miss the opportunity, or don't realize that birth can be like that, and end up having a very different kind of birth. It's just, it makes me feel sad that so many births are not as wonderful as yours. I mean, God, it sounds like the most idyllic, amazing birth. I mean, having part of your labor in a bluebell filled woods, and seeing deer, and like, it just sounds amazing. I mean, oh, I'm speechless, actually. It sounds so wonderful, and I'm so, so, so happy for you. And thank you for sharing it as well.
Thank you for giving the opportunity to. I feel really, really blessed and very proud of us, and it's so beautiful. And I know that had there been medical personnel there, it probably wouldn't have unfolded that way. I did push for 7 hours, and I experienced a very long healing journey because of how long I was pushing, and the position potentially that he was in. He didn't rotate, so he was born sunny side up as well. And had quite a bit of damage to my vagina, but it was also really beautiful.
Mm.
And so I guess it's that, you know, birth can be beautiful and hardcore, and you can
Yeah.
also deal with all of it, whatever comes your
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
And yeah, just knowing that pushing time that I had and how I felt with the bleeding afterwards, there would have been a push for transfer to hospital and probably forceps or whatever. Birth I would have been told, and potentially, classed as a hemorrhage.
Mhm.
I don't believe that's what it was.
Mhm.
Um, but also anything over 500 mils is now classed as a hemorrhage, so it will have been.
Mhm.
Um, Also, waiting over the hour for my placenta. You know, all of these things that could have been pathologized,
Mhm.
and actually, it was beautiful, and it was as it was meant to be. And yeah, and the same with the breastfeeding journey as well. Had I not been around a lot of people that were supportive, I probably would have been pushed to do formula. I had really severe mastitis and very sore nipples, and yeah, all of the things. And Nalu also had jaundice for 4 months. That would have been absolutely pathologized. And he's healthy and he's happy and he's lovely. Yeah, we're integrating it all still, and we're still. I still believe I'm definitely still healing from there.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just feel very, very grateful for the support of my partner, and how many women are doing it without potentially the support of the partners, and actually how much of a huge role they play in it is massively important,
Mhm.
not only for how they hold birth, but how they hold themselves within birth. I
Mhm.
guess that's what it all comes down to, is how we're able to hold ourselves in the moments and trust ourselves. And the pregnancy was probably more difficult for me than the birth, and then the breastfeeding was probably more difficult than that. So it was kind of like backwards to what we're kind of taught, because not having any kind of outsourcing throughout the whole of pregnancy. And one of my reasons for choosing that was due to the amount of stories I had over the many years I've been trying to heal, of how I don't trust my body, my own journey with my mental health and my relationship to my body, and also the death of my dad, and how I was so taught that our bodies basically fail us and that they're not supportive and that they're dangerous. And I didn't want my baby to be born with that story.
Mhm.
And I'm a bit extreme sometimes when it comes to things. So I'm like, all or nothing. But no, I chose what I believe to be the safest for me and my baby and my family. And yeah, I'm so glad I did. And I trusted myself. Yeah. But if you'd have told me a few years ago that's what I would have chosen, or like 10 years ago, I would have been like, absolutely not. Why would I choose that? Because I didn't have the knowledge
Mhm.
that I do now, and the trust in my baby and birth. And it's
Mhm.
just incredible. It's Women are fucking phenomenal. And
Yeah,
I'm just aware of women even more than I ever have been before. So
it's
yeah.
amazing. Birth is, even the most straightforward of births are wonderful and intense and a massive journey, physically, mentally, spiritually, a massive journey. Um,
Mm.
and I think you made amazing choices for you and your baby. And even with the things that were really challenging and the things that have impacted you, physically and maybe mentally, I think what an amazing experience for you to have, and what an amazing start you've given your son. you know like that's huge. It's that's going to impact him for his entire life, in a positive way. um
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. I do feel that. And we know, don't we, that how we birth and the experiences we have and our entrance to birth inform how we see the world, how we
Yeah.
move through life,
Yeah.
the choices that we make. And it's literally intergenerational
Mhm.
healing, trauma happening, depending
Mhm.
on how we birth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I attended a birth a few days ago and he came with me in a sling. So I'm already like, he's already in the birth space all the
I
time.
love it. I love it. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel like I'm on an oxytocin high now after listening to that. It's made my day. Um, if if anyone wants to find you on Instagram, because you do have an Instagram presence and you have various different courses and resources that people can benefit from, particularly for free birth, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. I've changed my Instagram name. It was Becc Wallace Birthkeeper. It's now Becca Oakaia, because we have changed our family name. So you can find me on Instagram there. I also have a Facebook group called Planet Birth, which is for wild pregnancy and free birth support. So you can go ahead and join that. There's so many free resources on there and videos and informational things. And I have a podcast called The Way of the Womb, which will soon be changing, but I won't reveal yet. But The Way of the Womb. So go over there and have a look. And currently, I am investing my time to building a mama village where we live. So we'll have a space for circles and trainings and courses. So if you're a birth worker or anywhere near Dorset or fancy coming to Dorset for the day or for our trainings, then you can follow us at Moynes Court Mama Village on Instagram as well. And all the things are coming soon.
Oh, so excited to see what else you do. Super excited. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for sharing your story. I cannot wait to publish it so that everyone can hear it. And yeah, I'll be watching to see what new things you're launching soon. I'm super excited to see the rest of your journey.
Thanks so much, Erin. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.